Hi guys, welcome to my top 15 BBC Micro games. Now, I'm sure if you're watching this video you're familiar with the BBC Micro, but I will give you a quick rundown of its history and origin just in case you didn't know. So, the BBC Micro is a computer by Acorn and it was released in 1981, and the BBC were basically running a computer literacy project where they had TV shows and books, and they wanted an accompanying computer. So they went to various companies, Sinclair being one, I think Dragon was another, but eventually Acorn got the contract and they released the BBC Micro computer system, or BBC Micro. So most computers in the 80s were in schools were BBC Micros, so particularly in my school we had BBC Micros in the classrooms and what have you, so it was great. You could play the games at school and various people had them at home, although they were rather expensive. So my love for the system comes from my friend Ali down the road from me, had a BBC Micro, and we used to just play games relentlessly. And the games came on floppy disks, and I mean the big, like 5-inch floppy disks, and not the smaller ones that came later with machines like the Amiga and the PC. So these big old floppy disks, which were literally floppy. And yeah, it had some really fantastic games. So you're about to see my top 15. So these are the top 15 games that I kind of spent the most time with and enjoyed the most. So it really is a personal top 15. So it kind of reflects the amount of time I spent with certain games and the amount of enjoyment I got from them. So I hope you enjoy, guys. Here we go, my top 15 BBC Micro games. Coming in at number 15 we have Thrust, which was published in 1986 by Superior Software. This has really cool physics and like a varying gravity system. It's featuring gameplay basically inspired by Atari's Gravitar, so you're manoeuvring a ship by rotating and thrusting basically through corridors and over landscape. Now the ship picks up a pod using a tractor beam and you must fly the pod into space. The game's most endearing elements are its realistic physics and perfect collision detection, although it's very difficult. Number 14 we have Blagger and the sequel Son of Blagger, released in 1983 and 1984 respectively, published by Alligator. Basically a platform adventure game with a really like floaty jump mechanic. The gameplay is very similar to Manic Miner. So you play the titular Blagger, who is a burglar, and the game is divided into single screen levels. The goal is to collect all the keys in the level and then open the safe within the allotted time. Number 13 we have Elite, published in 1984 by Acorn Soft. Space exploration and trading game basically. Hugely iconic and influential game. It was really open-ended and had revolutionary 3D graphics for the time, which led to it becoming basically a genre maker, and it was ported to virtually every other home computer. The player starts with 100 credits. Extra credits can be gained via various methods such as piracy, trade, military missions, bounty hunting and asteroid mining, among others. Money accumulated can then be spent on ship upgrades such as weapons, increased cargo hold and some other upgrades. Now, although low on my personal list due to basically not much time spent with this game, if this was a top 15 most influential BBC Micro games, Elite would be an easy first. The game's influence is still apparent in the industry today. Number 12 we have Exile, published in 1988 by Superior Software, so quite a late title. This was a huge space exploration game. It was fairly non-linear for the time, so the player has the freedom to decide in which order they want to complete challenges. Features weapons and jetpack system with collectible upgrades, and you must collect energy cells to power them. It has an amazing physics engine, awarding the game with the title of the first game to have a complete Newtonian motion model. Pushed the boundaries of what was achievable on home computers, particularly 8-bit machines. The game simulates all three of Newton's laws of motion, and the physics model features gravity, inertia, mass, explosions, shock waves, water, earth, wind and fire. Next up at number 11 we have Killer Gorilla, published in 1983 by Micro Power. Now, not much to be said about this one, as you can probably see straight away from the gameplay on screen. It's a clone of Nintendo's Donkey Kong, but really good fun, and spent a lot of time on this game. Really enjoyable. Number 10 we have Chucky Egg, published in 1984 by A&F Software. Probably one of the games that most people will know when they think of BBC Micro games. It's often cited as very influential in popularising platform games. It's kind of like an early Bubble Bobble or Snow Brothers in gameplay, I guess. You play Henhouse Henry. You must collect all the 12 eggs in each level before the timer runs out. You can also collect piles of seed for points, and it also stops the countdown timer briefly, otherwise the seed is eaten by the birds on the level, which briefly stops them in their tracks. But really good fun platform game there. Number 9 we have Repton, published in 1985 by Superior Software. Now, Repton had numerous sequels, and it was actually developed by a then 15-year-old British lad called Tim Tyler. It's kind of like Boulder Dash in gameplay. You play the titular lizard guy, Repton, who navigates the levels trying to collect all the diamonds. Okay, at number 8 we have Impossible Mission, which was published by Epix in 1985. Really cool animations in this one. The running and jumping animations are absolutely fantastic for the time. It just looks awesome for a BBC Micro game. You're basically playing a secret agent, much like in the TV show and subsequent films Mission Impossible, hence the title Impossible Mission. But you basically collect puzzle pieces which are hidden in desks and computers, etc. in the levels, and once you collect all the 36 pieces you get a password so you can reach the final villain. You have 6 hours of game time to collect all 36 pieces, and you lose 10 minutes every time you die. Really good fun, fluid, brilliant gameplay. Number 7 we have Daredevil Denis, published by Vision Software in 1984. It's spelt on the screen Daredevil Denis slightly differently to the actual title of the game. I'm not sure how that came about, but basically you're a stuntman called Daredevil Denis, and you're riding various vehicles through the levels, so motorbikes, jet skis or skidoos, and you have 3 controls. You have accelerate, brake and jump. So the screen is split into 4 platforms, so when you leave one platform you automatically enter the next one, and it contains various obstacles. So you have your static obstacles such as houses, and also moving obstacles such as ambulances. So points are given in the form of wages, and if you have too many failed attempts you get fired. So really good fun, challenging gameplay, but really simple, but spent hours and hours and hours playing this. Number 6 we have Commando, which is a Capcom game published by Elite Systems for the BBC Micro in 1985. Now this is obviously an arcade conversion. you've probably played it at the arcade or on some system or other. But the BBC Micro conversion was actually really good. This was my first experience with the game. Nice chunky graphics and just really good fun gameplay. Basically, if you haven't played it, it's kind of a top-down view, and you move up the screen vertically, and you have guns and grenades, and you're a commando basically. So yeah, really great fun game. Love the arcade game as well. Looks quite basic in terms of graphics, I guess, but compared to other BBC Micro games, it really stands up graphically, and it's just really good fun, the gameplay. Number 5, we have Palace of Magic, which was published by Superior Software. Again, a lot of Superior Software titles in this list. In 1987, it's a platformer with puzzle-solving elements. It's very similar to the number 3 pick, so I won't say what that is just yet. But yeah, it got slated a little bit for being a bit too similar. But it's good fun. You basically solving puzzles and collecting items and what have you, and exploring this huge multi-level or multi-screen game. But spent hours and hours playing this. Absolutely fantastic. So at number 4 we have 2 games. We have Striker's Run, which was published in 1986, again by Superior Software, and its sequel, Codename Droid, published in 1987. Now Striker's Run was a very early sort of run and gun game, I guess, side-scrolling. Absolutely amazing graphics for the time. This blew everyone away graphically. You have a laser pistol and grenades. You can also commandeer helicopters. I remember we had this in the wet room in my classroom, and we used to sneak in there on breaks and just play Striker's Run. Really good fun. So the sequel, Codename Droid, is also known as Striker's Run Part 2. You're in a huge underground base this time, and they've added various elements like jetpacks, and you've got end-of-level bosses. But yeah, both really fantastic games on the BBC Micro, and they're must-plays if you own the system or own an emulator. So at number 3 we have Citadel, published again by Superior Software in 1985. Now this is the game that I said that Palace of Magic was very similar to. So again, platformer with puzzle solving elements, boasting over 100 rooms. You're basically collecting items and solving puzzles, but you're limited to carrying 2 items at a time. So most enemies can't actually be killed in the game, they're only avoided. So you don't die, but you have a health bar, and it's depleted when you come into contact with enemies. So once it's depleted, you get sent back to the place that you entered the screen with, so you have to try again. But really huge game, really challenging. But yeah, it just brought me back again and again, and we used to play this to death and just try and get that little bit further in the game. Okay, my number 2 pick is one that people will probably be familiar with because it had various conversions, and that is Arkanoid, which is a Taito game published by Imogen Software in 1987. It's basically a breakout clone, so you have your little paddle and you're knocking the ball against the bricks, and you have to get rid of all the bricks to advance to the next stage. Now, Arkanoid was fantastic on the BBC Micro, really good graphics and simple sound, but really good sound, and absolutely loved this game. I've probably played this maybe the most out of any BBC Micro game. So you've got power-ups, you collect weapons like guns and things to make your paddle longer or shorter, or make the ball stick to your paddle, or make the ball split into 3, and all sorts. But yeah, if you haven't played this and you've got the opportunity to play it on any system, I thoroughly recommend it. But the BBC Micro conversion is absolutely fantastic, a real achievement on the hardware. Right, and number 1 is Imogen, published by Micropower in 1986, is another platformer with puzzle-solving elements. Now, you can't really compare this game to anything, but if I had to, I'd say it's kind of similar to Lost Vikings. But remember, this is 1986. The fact that this game came out in 1986 is huge. It was just so revolutionary, in my opinion. I thought it was such a novel idea. So you play a wizard called Imogen, and he has the ability to morph into a cat or a monkey. So when you're the wizard, you can basically use various items that you pick up on the way, like a revolver or a watering can and stuff like that. When you're a cat, you can jump, and when you're the monkey, you can climb ropes. I think there's also one level where you're a bird. So basically, you morph between the different animals and the wizard, and you have to solve puzzles. So each level requires transforming back and forth between those forms to complete the level. And it's actually impossible to die during the game, but the number of transformations is limited to 150 across the whole game. So if you use them all before the game's complete, it renders the game unwinnable. So the player takes on the role of the wizard named Imogen, as I said before. According to the backstory, he lost his mind and forgot his identity as a result of him transforming himself into a dragon to save his town from another dragon. He's placed into a dungeon within a mountain, and in order to escape he must utilise magic and puzzle-solving abilities he was previously aware of as his former self. And the upshot is that he will only be free once he's back to his old sane self and no longer a danger to the townsfolk. So quite a random backstory there, but cool nonetheless. The game features 16 levels. They're playable in a random order. And to complete the level, you need to attain the crystal, which will warp you to the next level. After all the 16 levels completed, it warps you to the outside world, thus completing the game. The crystals are always placed somewhere inaccessible at the outset of the level, and you need to employ a bit of lateral thinking to get to the crystal and complete the level. So yeah, as you can probably see from the gameplay, really cool idea, and just loved this game. I just thought it blew me away at the time, and for the 80s, it's just absolutely incredible. So that's why it's at my number 1 spot for the top 15 BBC Micro games. So that's it, guys. That's my top 15 BBC Micro games. If you've never played a BBC Micro, I thoroughly recommend that you download an emulator for your PC and check out a few of these games, because they really are a treat. And don't be put off by the primitive graphics and, you know, the 4 colours on screen, because it really doesn't matter. And I think that BBC Micro games really goes to show that graphics don't make the game at all, because a lot of these games are still really enjoyable today. And it's funny, you got kids moaning about, oh, so-and-so PS4 game, the graphics aren't as good as the trailer and all this jazz, and it's like, look at these BBC Micro games, the graphics are shit compared to today. But it doesn't matter, because the game's absolutely fantastic. Games like Arkanoid you can put in and play and still really enjoy. And it just really doesn't matter. So I thoroughly recommend all these games. If you get a chance to check any of them out, that would be fantastic. And let me know if you enjoyed them. Hope you enjoyed, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.